He's the Joint Director for Untitled, but he's helping in FICCI, part of us. And of course, Alex Nand and Sabi Matthew. Alex is the co-chair for export for Kerala, and Sergio is the head for the Kerala operations. I'll come straight away to the last because we're going to talk a lot about CEPA. CEPA itself is the comprehensive economic partnership agreement between the government of the Republic of India and the government of United Arab Emirates, which was signed on the 18th February 2022, thereby marking a red letter day for the UAE-India relationship. And FICCI feels that CEPA will enable the two countries to engage in multiple sectors. We foresee increase in volume of already traded goods and services, complementarities like access to greater GCC and third country markets will become a natural outcome. This will certainly help both the sides in entrepreneurship development, leading to more employment opportunities. We believe that now with this comprehensive economic engagement, SMEs in India will have a vital role in accessing the UAE market. The implementation of CEPA also sets the framework for an ambitious agenda of unlocking the real potential of investments from both the countries. More of that will be spoken by the speakers coming on, and the advantages of this agreement will also be spelled out. This session has important significance, especially to Kerala. Our people have made themselves part of the Middle East. The state has close to 2 million migrants in the Gulf region. Remittances account to over 35% of Kerala's income. CEPA will further enhance more cooperation between India and UAE, and especially from Kerala's perspective. It is in this context, FICCI Kerala State Council, along with the Joint Director General of Foreign Trade Kochi, and with Ocean Group Overseas Consulting Private Limited, Pankaj, as our supporting partner, are holding this program today. I'll straight away get into the program. I would like to invite Dr. M.I. Salguda, who is a co-chair for FICCI Kerala. He is the CMD of KIMS, and he will do the welcome address. Over to Dr. Salguda.
Sir, you are muted, sir. Please unmute.
Sorry. Thank you. A very good morning to each one of you. I would like to welcome everyone for this very important occasion, and it's a proud moment for FICCI to be a partner of the whole process. This is, as it has been elucidated now, is an interactive session on India-UAE Comprehensive Economic Partnership, and short form is called as acronym CEPA. Want to address the dignitaries, Shri V. Muralidharan, Honorable Minister of State of External Affairs, Parliamentary Affairs, External Affairs and Parliamentary Affairs, Government of India. Shri Sanjay Sudhir, Ambassador of India to UAE. His Excellency Ahmad Al-Banna, UAE Ambassador to India. Dr. Suman Billah, IAS Principal Secretary, Department of Industries and Commerce, Government of Kerala. And number of other dignitaries who are present here, Dr. Sri Mohammad Yusuf, Dr. Azad Mupan, Dr. Siddiq Ahmad, Sri Shyam Kapoor, Mr. Halilal, Joint Director General, Joint Director General of Foreign Trade, JD, GFT, Bipin Menon, Alex Nainan, Sabio Matthew is our head of FICCI, Kerala State Council. Distinguished other invitees from industry, trade, from India and UAE, attending the session both physically and virtually. Ladies and gentlemen, I think it is a great, this is a very proud moment for industry and trade opening doors to new opportunities for trade and investment between United Arab Emirates and India. I want to welcome the interactive session organized by FICCI, JDGFT of Kochi, and Ocean Group Overseas Consultant Private Limited as the supporting partner. We are extremely honored to have the Honorable Minister of State for External Affairs and Parliamentary Affairs, V. Muralidharan, Government of India, to inaugurate the session, and also Sri Sanjay Sudhir, Ambassador of India to UAE, to render the special address. FICCI commends the leadership of India and UAE for making the CEPA a reality in record time, even amid the COVID-19 pandemic. The signing of CEPA is a significant step towards a tectonic shift in the cordial relationship exists between the two countries. FICCI feels that CEPA will enable the two countries to engage in multiple sectors, backed by larger investment flows. India and UAE stand on a threshold of achieving USD about 60 billion in trade flows. The CEPA should easily help in increasing this to about 100 billion USD in the coming years. One area of great mutual interest will be the innovation and the startups. On this, the technology development which is going to happen, driven by this process and this partnership, will be tremendous. Let it be in health, in education, in the financial area, and so this is like an industrial revolution 4.0, and many more areas. Needless to mention that such technology collaborations and a culture of entrepreneurship in both countries will lead to expanding our trade and investment basket. This will also help SMEs in India to scale up their business and increase our exports. With this FTA, there will be an immediate boost in people-to-people contact too. The relationship will transition and transform from traditional to tech-led business, and that's what is going on today. Kerala has strong bond of relationship with significant percentage of Kerala people, the diaspora in UAE, and I think the Keralites are likely to benefit immensely out of this relationship. And today's session assumes great significance in all this context. Let me just welcome our Honorable Minister of State and External Affairs and Parliamentary Affairs, who was expected in our midst physically to go back to Delhi urgently and will be addressing our virtually. And I think, I am very, very happy on behalf of everyone assembled and all the organizations involved to extend a warm welcome to our Honorable Minister, Mr. V. Muralidharan. And next will be Sri Sanjay Sudhir, Ambassador of India to UAE, has been always supportive of the various initiatives of FICCI to promote trade and investment between India and UAE. And it's a great pleasure, Ambassador, to welcome you to this function. We are also delighted to have the presence of Dr. Suman Billa, Principal Secretary, Department of Industries and Commerce of Government of Kerala, as our distinguished speaker from Government of Kerala. It is first official meeting of Dr. Suman Billa, and for a FICCI event in Kerala, so it is a special welcome we extend on behalf of FICCI. Customs has been a very important role has played an important role in this relationship. And Sri Mohammed Yusuf, Commissioner of Customs, Cochin, is present here to address the participants. And a very warm welcome to you, Mr. Mohammed Yusuf. I also welcome many industrial, industry partners and from UAE who is present in the August gathering. And I want to especially welcome my dear friend, Dr. Azad Mupan, Chairman and Managing Director of Foster DM Healthcare, and contribute a lot to such a relationship. And Dr. Azad, welcome to this gathering. And Dr. Siddiq Ahmed, Chairman and Managing Director of Iran Group, same way, providing so much employment and also trade relationship. Dr. Siddiq, very happy to welcome. Sri Shyam Kapoor, Vice President of Sharaf Group, also I am extremely delighted to welcome. And today's session being organized jointly by JDGFT Kochi office, Sri K.M. Harilal, Joint Director General, would be present throughout today's session. And I take this opportunity to welcome Sri K.M. Harilal to this session. And also Sri Bipin Menon, Developmental Commissioner, Noida, CES Department of Commerce, Government of India, and Additional Director General of Foreign Trade. He has come from Delhi to be, I think he's in Delhi. I don't know whether he's physically present. I take this occasion to welcome, Sri Bipin Menon. I also have, I would like to welcome my, chair of FICCI in Kerala, and Sri Deepak Ashwani, and Sri Alex Nainan, Chairman of the FICCI Kerala Task Force Committee, and Savio Matthews, head of our FICCI Kerala State Council, and also all the other distinguished guests from who are present at Kochi for physically and for joining this session. I wish all success for this session, and thank you. Shukran Jasila. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Sardula, for the wonderful welcome.
Over to you.
Thank you, Dr. Sardula.
Thank you.
The meanings of guys, what's the screen? I'm sorry for that inconvenience. Let's get started. I'd like to invite K.M. Harilal, Joint Director General of Foreign Trade EFT Kochi, to give us the introductory.
Dr. Sadullah, there seemed to be significant disturbance in the stage there. We are not able to hear.
Yeah, I also feel the same, Dr. Azad. Someone in the physical event may look for a better connection with other audience, because we are getting lost out a little bit. We are unable to follow. Is there any?
Can you hear us now?
Not really. Anyone else?
No, we can just see, but it's not what they say. We are not able to hear. There is some issue with the connectivity.
Dr. Gopal, can you just try now?
Very barely we can hear. Only part of it we can understand. There is a lot of disruption in your what you are speaking. So connection, there is somebody technical side should help you, I think.
Yeah, just give us a minute, please.
You're breaking off. I think that is the problem. We can hear you, but not you're breaking off. I
Yeah,
think
just give us a minute, please.
yeah. Anyway, I think if it is interrupting the meeting, please go ahead. So
Can you hear me now?
yeah, I think it's slightly better, isn't it, Dr. Asad?
Yeah.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah. It is better. It's certainly better.
Then I invite Sri K. Manilal, and he'll take us through the introductory address. Please, sir.
Respected Honorable Minister of State for External Affairs, Shri V. His Excellency Shri Sanjeev Sathir, Ambassador of India in UAE, Shri Suman Villa, Principal Secretary, Industries, Government of Kerala, Shri Muhammad Yusuf, Commissioner of Customs, Shri Vipin Menon, Additional DGFT, Shri Azad Mupan from Hospital TM Healthcare, Shri Siddiq Ahmad, Chairman Arab Group, Shri Shyam Kapoor, Saraf Group, official from FICCI, dignitaries, ladies and gentlemen, entrepreneurs, and business captains. A warm good morning to all. A recently concluded CEPA, or Free Trade Agreement, which is called the Comprehensive Economic Partnership Agreement between India and UAE, which is going to come into effect with effect from 1st May 2022, offers a unique opportunity for the Keralites and exporters in particular. This is the first free trade agreement that India has signed for the last 10 years, I believe. So now onwards, our goods can reach UAE at a more competitive price. It also offers a good opportunity for the service sector, our professionals, skilled youth, and other economic actors as well. From the data, it shows that the export from Kerala to UAE, if we exclude gold and petroleum products, is almost 2,200 crores, which is about 400 million US dollars per year. And major items of exports includes cashew, spices, fruits and vegetables, marine products, rice, coconut oil, etc., etc. And mainly caters to the Keralite or Indian population who are living in UAE. So it is in this background that we are organizing a session on India-UAE CEPA, and to discuss how and the best we can tap the opportunity offered by this economic partnership agreement. And it should be also a win-win situation both for the countries, both for India as well as for UAE, entrepreneurs both in India as well as for UAE. So this is the first time that we are organizing such an event in Kochi. Based on the feedback, based on the comments, response received from this audience, we are also planning to organize such sessions in Calicut as well as in Trivandrum. So with these few words, I conclude myself, and I am hoping that the participants will gain immense knowledge and information from this seminar and will utilize this opportunity to boost the business potential as well. Thank you very much, Jai Hind.
And since we can have the pitch, we should carry forward the minister's address a little later. In the meanwhile, we should connect to His Excellency Sri Sanjay Sudhi, the Ambassador of India to UAE. Can we get the ambassador?
Yeah, can you hear me? Just want to confirm from you.
Yes, yes.
Okay,
Loud and clear, yes.
that's wonderful. Honorable Minister of State for External Affairs, Shri V. Muralidharan, my colleague Ambassador Ahmed Albana, Ambassador of the UAE to India, Shri Suman Billah, Principal Secretary Industries, Mr. Mohammed Yusuf, Commissioner Customs, representatives of FICCI, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. At the outset, I wish to congratulate FICCI to organize today's event focusing on CEPA. I think it's a very timely event. It's a great initiative on part of Government of Kerala and FICCI to reap quick benefits from CEPA. Most of you have witnessed the India-UAE relationship for a considerable period of time, and you would have seen the growth of our relationship. You would have seen that in the last 8 years in particular, the strengthening of our relationship has been pretty different on a different scale altogether. It has deepened, it has broadened, and this has been particularly significant. Our Prime Minister, Shri Narendra Modi, has already visited the UAE thrice, and His Highness the Crown Prince of Abu Dhabi, Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan, has visited India twice. I think much has already been said about CEPA. I will not repeat that part, but I will add the perspective from Abu Dhabi and Dubai. Even before CEPA was signed, I think Kerala government and FICCI took the lead in boosting economic engagement between the UAE and Kerala. I recall the highly successful visit of Chief Minister Shri Pinarayi Vijayan in February this year during Dubai Expo. That was a visit which laid a strong foundation to further promote trade and investment between Kerala and the UAE. During the visit, as many of you would have seen in the press coverage, which was really extensive, that Honorable Chief Minister met the Vice President of UAE and the ruler of Dubai, His Highness Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum. He also met the Deputy Prime Minister of UAE, the Deputy Ruler of Dubai, the Crown Prince of Dubai. He had very important economic meetings, with the Economic Minister Abdullah bin Tuq Al Mari and also the Minister of State for Foreign Trade, Dr. Hani Ziobi. Several MOUs were signed and high-level business interactions took place. I must also highlight the special relationship between Kerala and the UAE. You all know that there are about 3.5 million Indians residing in this country. Majority are from Kerala, and the relationship between UAE and Kerala, from the Malabar, has been very historical. Therefore, Kerala has the advantage of familiarity, which no other state has, and I think you need to all exploit this. The Kerala community here has built a strong reputation for hard work and dedication, and many Kerala business persons have now become big. They are not only doing well here, but they're doing investments back home in Kerala. They're doing a lot of social service in Kerala and the rest of India. Many of them, their work has been acknowledged. They've been awarded Pravasi Bharati Samman. Some of them have been awarded Padam Shri. And of course, one of them is in our midst, Dr. Azad Mupin. Then you also have people like Dr. Yusuf Ali, Shamshi, and there are a lot of Keralites here who have really done well. Now that CEPA has been signed, we all have to work together to reap the benefits. As you know, CEPA was signed on the 18th of February during a virtual summit between our leaders, Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi and His Highness the Crown Prince of Abu Dhabi, Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan. In our view, CEPA will usher in a paradigm shift in our relations. Trade is already doing well, but our mutual commitment and effort is what it do even better. As you all know, UAE has been India's second largest trading partner and export destination. For us, UAE is the third largest trading partner and the second largest export destination. Some months back, Prime Minister had set the target of boosting our exports to US dollar 400 billion for the financial year 2021-22. This was indeed a very ambitious target, considering the fact that we were all still affected by COVID. And you would have all heard that this ambitious target has been achieved. And we have not only achieved it, we have actually exceeded it by about $18 billion. UAE has had a big contribution in this. because UAE continues to be the second largest export destination, and last year it was our exports to UAE were about $28 billion. This was a clear jump of about 67% over the previous financial year. What is also noteworthy about CEPA is that while economies around the world are stuttering, the sixth largest world economy, which is India, and the second largest Arab economy, which is the UAE, have signed a comprehensive trade deal. This shows signs of optimism, and why not? You know, UAE has just successfully hosted Expo 2020. CEPA will allow India to take advantage of UAE as a global logistical center with technically advanced storage facilities that can distribute goods on a very global scale. More exports and investments will definitely result in more jobs in both countries, and it will certainly be a boon for the service sector as well. There are many firsts about CEPA, and just to share a few, it is the fastest FTA negotiated ever between two countries in less than 3 months. CEPA is the first bilateral agreement which we have signed in the last 10 years, and the first bilateral agreement for the UAE ever. I must also say that, you know, in the whole of Middle East and North African region, this happens to be our first trade deal. UAE has offered zero duty from day one, entry into force, accounting for about 90% of India's export by value. We expect entry into force on the 1st of May, just a few days from now. UAE has also offered overall duty elimination on over 97% of its tariff lines, corresponding to about 99% of India's exports. And I think these are big things. You also are also aware that the text of CEPA has already come out in public domain on the 27th of March. You must have seen it. If you have not seen it, please go to the website of the Commerce Ministry. Also, one other website you could tap is the website of the Ministry of Foreign Trade of the UAE, and you will find a very user-friendly version of CEPA. I also urge FICCI to do a thorough study on how best our business persons can exploit the preferential treatment for bilateral trade. Let me just also, also say a few things about investments, because my conviction is that when trade grows, investments also grow. Understanding of each other's investment climate, trade climate, they go hand in hand. And the story for the last 6 months has indeed been very encouraging. You would have seen that UAE invested 2 billion in Reliance Jio and Reliance Retail in June last year. And just a few weeks back, they invested 2 billion in Adani, three Adani companies dealing with energy. 1 billion was invested in Tata Motors, electric vehicles, in October last year. And last week, you would have heard about this announcement of investment in Tata Power to the tune of about $525 million. On the other side, from India to the UAE, Reliance invested 2 billion in petrochemicals JV in December last year. I think what is important given this scenario is that Kerala needs to position itself as a credible state for investments. The need is to submit proposals that can be considered seriously by the investor community in the UAE. On our part, on the part of the embassy and the consulate, we have developed a multi-pronged strategy, which I want to share with all of you, because a lot of them who would actually benefit from CEPA are around this hybrid conference. First and foremost is that we have drawn up a calendar of fortnightly buyer-seller meets in Dubai and whenever required also in Abu Dhabi. And this will start in the first fortnight of June, starting with gems and jewelry, which is India's largest export. It will continue with another buyer-seller meet on engineering goods in the second half of June. And then there is a whole calendar, which we'll be very happy to share with FICCI. You must immediately contact the concerned EPCs to secure your participation. And on our part, from the UAE side, we'll try to garner as big a participation as possible. The second most important thing is that, as you all know, Dubai has established a reputation for having a lot of important focused exhibitions on different sectors. What we need to do on our part is to have robust participation in these exhibitions so as to target the global market. You know, I can tell you about the Gulf food exhibition which just happened a couple of months back, and that had all serious players from across the world. So the target should be not just UAE, the target should be the world. Now, on 1st May, as I said, CEPA will enter into force. An institutional framework has been laid. Now it is for the business community to take advantage, and I wish you well for that. At the embassy in Abu Dhabi and the consulate in Dubai, we'll always be available to assist. In fact, I must also add before concluding that I have great confidence in Mr. Suman Billah, who has recently taken over as Principal Secretary Industries. I've known him for a long time, since my days as Consul General in Sydney. And I know him for his dynamism, his proactive style of working, when he was there in tourism ministry. And with Bipin Menon also, you know, the additional DGFT, we worked together in WTO about 15 years back. I've also worked very closely with FICCI Kerala chapter in the past when I was ambassador in the Maldives. And I must commend them and acknowledge the good work they did to strengthen economic engagement between Kerala and the Maldives. I think we are all in safe hands. At the embassy, we have our commercial representative, Shri Rajiv Arora. And at the consulate in Dubai, we have Shri Kalimuthu, who have also joined this hybrid conference. And we assure you that we'll all work with you very closely. I thank you all.
Thank you.
So before you go away, just a couple of words. Thank you for the warmth and the confidence that you have bestowed upon us, and particularly the clarity on CEPA and what we have to look forward to. I was actually going to introduce His Excellency someplace before he talked, but somehow because of the glitch, we've been a little off the track. But I'd still like to say a few words about His Excellency. Sanjay Sudhi joined the Indian Foreign Service in 1993, and besides being India's ambassador to the UAE, Mr. Sudhi is also India's permanent representative to the International Renewable Energy Association. In a diplomatic career spanning about 3 decades, Mr. Sudhi had served as High Commissioner of India to the Maldives, as he said on his speech. Prior to that, he also had various important assignments under the Ministry of External Affairs. His Excellency holds a degree of Bachelor of Technology from the IIT New Delhi and has pursued diplomatic studies at Oxford University, UK. In international trade, Mr. Sudhir has studied the TRIPS Agreement and public health, WTO law and jurisprudence, and WTO dispute settlement. All in all, the very versatile and worthy person sitting at Dubai and a friend for all Carolines out there. The recent Dubai Expo also exposed the capability and the warmth and the way His Excellency Sudhir took care of everybody who came. We have had a number of reports from various celebrities, chief ministers, and including the Prime Minister, the way the Indian Embassy took care of everybody who came to the Expo. So we look forward to continued support from your offices. Thank you very much for being with us today. And you were talking about Mr. Suman Billah. So our next speaker is actually Mr. Suman Billah. I'll introduce Dr. Suman Billah, IAS, as he comes on. Are we getting him? Yes. Dr. Suman Billah is now the Principal Secretary, Industries and Norca, Kerala. From the 1996 batch, Kerala cadre, this IAS officer studied at the Madras Christian College, the JNU Delhi, and has been a British Chevron Gurukula scholar at the London School of Economics. An MPhil by qualification, Dr. Sukumar started his career as assistant collector in Alleppey in 1998 and handled various responsibilities in both the home Kerala and in central departments. Key responsibilities held by him are Director, Technical Cooperation and Silk Road, United Nations, Joint Secretary, Ministry of Tourism, MOT, Government of India Secretary, Tourism, Kerala, Chairman, Kerala State Civil Supplies Corporation, Commissioner of Commercial Taxes, Government of Kerala. He has also served as the Government of India as Private Secretary to the Ministers of State for External Affairs and Defense. Another versatile personality. We look forward to some wonderful words from you, sir.
Thank you. Honorable Minister Sri Muralidharan, Ambassador Sanjay Sudhir, who is my dear friend and with whom I renew my acquaintance again through this virtual meeting, Ambassador Ahmad Abana, Dr. Sahadullah, whom again I'm meeting after several years today over this meeting, dignitaries and ladies and gentlemen. It's been what CEPA offers has already been outlined, and I think Ambassador Sanjay Sudhir has really walked us through how the relationship between India and the UAE is emerging and what potential it holds for us. So let me just look at it from a Kerala perspective. We all know that CEPA offers a raft of possibilities and opportunities for India, and Kerala is especially well placed to be able to take advantage of this. So I will just in the few minutes that I have try to focus on what Kerala can do to make the best use of this opportunity. The first thing I think we should look at is to identify what are the key areas that we want to strategize to make an impactful position in this opportunity. So to my mind, and this is not based on some great research, but just overall understanding of how our exports are shaping up, I think we have significant opportunities in the areas of jewelry, gems and jewelry, agricultural products, footwear, engineering products, textiles, pharma, also Ayush. Yesterday, I was at the Global Investment and Innovation Summit for Ayush at Gandhinagar, and I think that is an area again where Kerala can have a significant amount of advantage. So I think the focus that we need to have is to look at areas where we have good competitive advantage, where we have a reasonable amount of wherewithal to be able to produce world-class products at a competitive price and which we will be able to supply to Abu Dhabi. We need to look at the ecosystem that is already in play and see as to how we can strengthen the existing ecosystem to be able to make better use of this opportunity. The list is not, as I said, is not final, and this is subject to revision, and we can certainly look at there could be areas where we are not supplying so many things right now, or where the critical mass is not there, but there could be areas where there is significant amount of potential, and we could certainly look at what those are and work on it. But the principle that I want to lay down here is that we need to have a very selective and a very targeted and focused approach, and we need to have a roadmap for the next 3 years and 5 years to figure out what are the kind of results that we need to see and we need to reward. The second thing that I would like to say is that we need to brainstorm with the industry. We need to collaborate with the DGFT, with customs, and the Honorable Ambassador has already spoken about the kind of support that he is willing to offer Kerala. So I think we need to tie all these knots together and see as to how we can brainstorm our way to a functional and practical roadmap which shows the way forward for us. So I think over the next couple of months, one of the ideas that I have in mind, and I've already instructed the Director of Industries and Commerce, is to put together all the key stakeholders to come together so that we have a brainstorming session. And this may happen over, it may take 2 or 3 sessions, but I think we need to sharpen and ideate on what are the opportunities that we need to do and how is it that we are going to go and attack those opportunities. Because we need to understand two things. First, we need to know as to where the shoe pinches now, because if there are areas of pain and there are pain points, I think we need to see as to how best we can resolve it. The second is to see as to how we can scale up and improve our act to be able to make the best use of this opportunity. So I think along with the industry, we will also be involving some academia who are working especially on the area of imports and exports in the Middle Eastern area, and of course the Honorable Ambassador, the DGFT, and the Customs, and we will try and evolve a roadmap for this. Some of the things that, of course, the government of Kerala intends to do, and I'm just listing them out. But of course, whatever we do will eventually depend upon what it is that the industry wants us to help them with. So some of the areas that that I think we could help with is to set up a export facilitation desk, which can provide guidance to in matters like standards, certification, export finance, insurance, etc., to prospective people who would like to export or make use of this opportunity. And we will also make sure that this facilitation desk will also liaise with all the stakeholders, so we have a organic connection with with everybody who is involved. The other thing that we could do is to mount all the relevant details on. Ambassador Sanjay Sudhir has just spoken about the Ministry of Commerce website and how it has listed out what are the opportunities that CEPA has, and has urged all of us to go and read. Similarly, I think what we need to do is, basis the action plan that we have, we need to have mount all of these data and details onto the websites that we have, so that not just the existing players, but even those who are inspired to start something under the framework of CEPA to export and import using the CEPA framework should be encouraged. And this is going to be both, it should both be on the industry's website as well as on the NORCA website, because it's not just a one-way street where we will look at Keralites from here sending things out to the Abu Dhabi, but we will also try and see as to how the NORCA ecosystem there will be able to utilize this opportunity to import things into Abu Dhabi, but also to be able to export things back into India and into Kerala. And the third thing that we could look at is to consider the requirement of specialized labs for export certification. It could be for sanitary, phytosanitary certification, etc. Whatever it is that the industry thinks that there is a gap, we could certainly, the state could certainly look at co-financing it or setting it up as a common facility. That is something that we could look at. The other idea is to look at strengthening the logistic facilities, especially I think for exports, we need to be looking at packaging, cold storages, warehousing. So this array of things, we need to take a look at what the existing state of play is and what it is that we need to do to be able to strengthen that chain so that our exporters are enabled to be able to move their goods out. The other idea is also something that Ambassador Sudhir had mentioned, export promotion meets. So apart from the fairs that and the industry events that the ambassador had mentioned where we need to participate, we can also take out our delegations to the UAE for focused export promotion meets to be able to make that connection. And we would also be delighted to host delegations from the UAE with a sector focus into Kerala for them to be able to see and understand as to what the possibilities here are. One of the other things that I was looking at was to look at having some export related trainings, especially on availability of credit and accessing credit, and also on the technology that can help these exports move ahead, because today a large part of especially the logistics and the export system works on a technology platform. So I think it's probably a good idea for us to onboard our exporters and especially those who would like to start afresh onto this. The other idea is to have synergies with the existing programs, because as you know, there are a lot of departments within the government of Kerala which are working with significant amount of export focus. One thing that comes straight to mind is the value added mission for agriculture, which is trying to see as to how we can leverage Kerala's agricultural produce with some value addition, and as to how we can send it out for export so that we realize greater value for the produce that we have in Kerala. So similarly, there are several other departments like the NORCA, like the IT, etc., who are working with a focus on exports. So we will try to dovetail into their existing programs and schemes to be able to structure something which can take a larger position in the CEPA framework. And one issue that exporters all over the world are talking about now is about the container availability. So I would again like to sit down with the industry to understand as to where the bottlenecks are and as to what we can do. Is there something that we can do to incentivize smoother movement of containers between, especially between Kerala and the Middle East. And of course, subject to the discussion that we would have, and today we are taking the first step in a very long journey of prosperity in our engagement with the UAE. And when we have this discussion and we have connected all the dots, we could perhaps consider having a focused export promotion policy in which we can treat UAE as a focus geography and see as to how we can strengthen the hands of our of our business people by maybe incentivizing and helping them a little bit to be able to access the markets ahead. So one last thought on the investments that Ambassador Sudhir had mentioned. We are very keen, as you had rightly mentioned, the Honorable Chief Minister was there for the Dubai Expo, and he and the Industries Minister have had an opportunity to meet several investors who are keen to invest in India, in Kerala. So we are following up with them diligently, and we would like to host delegations from the Abu Dhabi Chamber of Commerce, from the Dubai Chamber of Commerce, and a few others that they had met and where there was considerable traction in Kerala. And we would like to seek all your support, help and guidance for us to be able to push this forward. So these are typically my initial thoughts. And I think, as I had mentioned, the opportunity for CEPA is very large and it is very, very promising, especially for Kerala. And I think we should do whatever it takes to ensure that we get our fair share of the potential that this engagement offers. And on behalf of the government of Kerala, I would like to assure all of my colleagues and all of the business people here that please be assured that we will work with you hand in hand. It's not going to be the government and the business working together. It's going to be the government and the business who will work together as one team to be able to deliver results on this. I thank the organizers for inviting me and for organizing this much needed event. Thank you.
Thank you ever so much, Dr. Birla. And couple of words. It's absolutely commendable to see, to listen to your pieces of advice. Your mind seems to be working almost like a beehive. You have put in so many ideas, so many suggestions. And on behalf of the industry, Vicky would love to connect. We are already in good connect with the industry department. And in fact, we were part of the delegation to the Kerala team to the Dubai Expo. And we also made a suggestion to our Vicky National Executive that there should be a business center or a Vicky center at Dubai, so that it will be far more easier to connect on all these activities also. So you also seem to be already in the blue ocean of strategy, and so we definitely look forward to getting together and looking forward to many activities. We have already suggested two important areas. One is a seafood park in Cochin, and the other is an FMCG park. Because going by the number of ports and the airports, this is an area where we can easily export out of these places. So we look forward to connecting with you as soon as possible, and let's take Kerala into a different sphere altogether. Thank you so much. We now are getting the Honorable Minister. This is one of the most awaited events today. That is the inauguration and inaugural address by the Honorable Minister. Sri Muralidharan, Union Minister of State for External Affairs and Parliamentary Affairs of India since 30th May 2019. He was the 8th state president of Bharatiya Janata Party in Kerala. The Honorable Minister was also appointed Government Deputy Chief Whip in the Rajya Sabha. After graduating in English language and literature from Government Brennan College, Talasheri, Kerala, Sri Muralidharan started his journey as an activist in socio-political affairs, which vastly enriched his experience. He held various positions such as Vice Chairman of Nehru Yuva Kendra under Ministry of Youth Affairs and Sports, Government of India from 1999 to 2002, and later Director General of the Nehru Yuva Kendra from 2002 to 2004. So we look forward to your words of wisdom.
Sri Deepak L. Aswani, Chairman, FICCI Kerala State Council. Sri K.M. Harilal, Joint Director General of Foreign Trade, Kochi. Sri Sanjay Sudhir, Ambassador of India to UAE. Dr. Suman Billa, IAS, Principal Secretary, Department of Industries and Commerce, Government of Kerala. Sri Mohammad Yusuf, Commissioner of Customs, Cochin. Dr. Azad Mupen, Chairman and Managing Director, Aster BM Healthcare. Dr. Siddiq Ahmed, Chairman and Managing Director, Iram Group. Sri Shyam Kapoor, Vice President, Sharaf Group. Ladies and gentlemen, Namaskaram. I am very happy to participate in this event organized by FICCI Kerala State Council, along with Joint Director General of Foreign Trade, Kochi. The India-UAE Comprehensive Economic Partnership Agreement, or the CEPA, signed recently, is both historic and comprehensive in scope. The industry, business people, and concerned officials in both countries will need to discuss and implement various provisions of the agreement to realize its fullest potential. Today's event is therefore very timely and important. Friends, I strongly believe that India and UAE today stand at an inflection point in the trade and investment relationship after the signing of CEP. At this stage, it's important to recollect how our two countries have reached this point. This takes us back to the landmark visit of Prime Minister Sri Narendra Modi to UAE in 2015, which was the first visit of India's Prime Minister to UAE in 34 years. Ever since that visit, the relations between India and UAE have seen unprecedented momentum under the leadership of Prime Minister Sri Narendra Modi and Crown Prince of Abu Dhabi, His Highness Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan. During the visit of His Highness Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed to India as the chief guest on our Republic Day in 2017, both our countries elevated the bilateral relationship to comprehensive strategic partnership. India-UAE trade and investment relations were already robust, with the UAE being our third largest trading partner and India being the second largest trading partner of UAE. Friends, it's to the credit of the exceptional trust and understanding between our two countries that the CEPA negotiations were concluded within a span of 88 days after their launch in September 2021. Furthermore, the agreement is truly comprehensive in scope and covers not only trade in goods but also trade in services, IPRs, digital trade, rules of origin, government procurement, dispute settlement, as well as on pharma. The importance of the agreement can also be gauged from the fact that it is India's first FTA with any country in West Asia and North Africa region. It's also the first free trade agreement signed by India in a decade. The enhanced market access with the signing of CEPA will benefit all stakeholders, including exporters, importers, and consumers. The employment opportunities that will be created with the implementation of the agreement will benefit the people of both our countries. Indian businesses will gain improved market access in many product lines, particularly in labor-intensive sectors such as gems and jewelry, textiles, leather, footwear, plastics, agricultural products, engineering goods, and pharmaceuticals. On the other hand, exporters from the UAE will gain enhanced access to India's large market, especially for products like petroleum, metals, minerals, chemicals, and petrochemicals. I am confident that CPA will take our bilateral trade to 100 billion US dollars in goods and 15 billion US dollars in services within the next 5 years. Both sides will also benefit from UAE's location as a strategic gateway to the Middle East, Africa, Europe, and other regions. All forms of capital, be it financial, technological, and human, will flow in both directions with a new and more efficient framework. India's focus on infrastructure development and rapid improvement in ease of doing business would provide more opportunities for UAE's investments in India. Friends, our mutual commitment to fully utilize the CEPA is clear from the fact that after the signing of the agreement, both sides have swiftly moved forward in implementing it and discussing specific points in different areas. Minister of Commerce and Industry, Sri Piyush Goyal, visited Dubai in March, during which both sides announced the ratification of the agreement. On this occasion, ministers from both sides interacted with a number of businessmen, industrialists, and government officials from both countries. The excitement among them for the opportunities that will be unlocked by CEPA was palpable. We are also expecting further visits from ministers and business people in the weeks and months to come to deliberate how we can take best advantage of the CEPA. A high-level business delegation from UAE visited Jammu and Kashmir last month, and another is expected to visit the Union Territory in the coming days to look into trade and investment opportunities. Given the maritime proximity between Kerala and UAE, as well as the large Kerala community that resides in the UAE, the state is in a great position to take advantage of the opportunities emerging out of the CEPA. The India-UAE relationship is sure to gain momentum in the coming years and contributes towards strengthening Atmanirbhar Bharat. I feel that besides the traditional areas of trade and investment, we should also gear up for the future. The vision statement adopted by our two leaders at their virtual summit in February 2022 provides the roadmap in this regard. We should accordingly look for forging partnerships in newer and emerging areas like climate action, innovation, digitalization, startups, food and energy security, health, fintech, skilling, and defense and security. Friends, the government under the leadership of Sri Narendra Modi ji remains focused on Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas and Sabka Vishwas for the progress and prosperity of all Indians. We remain committed to achieving the goal of making India a $5 trillion US dollar economy and further increasing our exports, which touched the mark of 400 billion US dollars for the first time this year. It's in this context we will continue to work with our partners in the international community on trade, investment, development, and innovation. Our relationship with UAE is foremost in this regard. Friends, CPA provides an excellent platform to take the India-UAE strategic cooperation to a new level. Let's all make use of the great opportunities it has opened up. Before concluding, I felicitate FICCI, Joint Director General of Foreign Trade, for jointly organizing the interactive session on India-UAE CEPA. I'm glad to note that a large number of participants are joining the session, both physically and virtually. With this, let me officially inaugurate the session. Thank you.
The function is officially inaugurated. Thank you very much, Honorable Minister. We are indeed very proud that we have a Minister of State for External Affairs from the state of Kerala. So your words are full of confidence, and we are sure with you at the helm of affairs, Kerala and India will take steps to go ahead, way ahead with the signing of the CEPA agreement and doing full justice to the words of this agreement. It's my proud privilege now to call upon Sri Mohammed Yusuf, the Commissioner of Customs, both in terms of he being the key person in getting both imports and exports out of the state. Few words about Sri Mohammed Yusuf IRS. Sri Mohammed Yusuf joined Indian Revenue Service, Customs and Central Excise in the year 1996. Before being promoted to the grade of Commissioner, he had served the department in different capabilities in Central Excise and Customs. He has also worked as departmental representative in the Appellate Tribunal. He was posted as Commissioner of Central Tax and Central Excise Audit in the year 2017 and is presently posted as the Commissioner of Customs Cochin from 29 July 2019. Over to you, sir.
Honorable Mantri Ji, Muralidharan Sahab, Excellencies, senior officers of the government, captains of trade and industry, all other participants here today, both physically and joining us virtually. Namaskar to all of you. I'm very glad and extremely happy to be here today. More so for the personal reason that after almost 20 years, I am meeting my old buddy, Vipin Menon here and sharing the body with him. Hats off, first of all, to DGFT, Kerala and Vicky for having taken this initiative to organize, a seminar like this. We have been hearing about this CEPA agreement from quite a number of distinguished guests who have spoken before me. I'm not going to repeat anything more on that. I would only like to say that, the importance to Kerala or to the Kerala economy of the Middle East in general and UAE in particular, that hardly require any emphasis, that we all know. Any family in Kerala, you just ask, and it's very difficult to find any family without having any connection whatsoever with someone who is not working in the Middle East. We already have a somewhat robust kind of trade as of now. And on the export side, we have perishables, we have a little bit of probably frozen cargo, we have apparels, we have cashew nuts and the like. And imports, mainly crude and some other items also. And, we have already a very good team here in Kochi. We are continuously in touch with each other and regularly from the customs side, I exchange my notes with Sri Harilagan, who is with us here. Similarly, we have a highly proactive chairman of the port trust, Dr. Srimati Beena. We have Praveen Thomas, who is managing the container terminal on behalf of the DP World. And likewise, we have the trade bodies, FICCI, chambers, various associations of export promotions like FIEO. So we are regularly in touch with all of them. And I would like only to say that the doors of customs have always been open. And then we have been continuously tracking and the minor glitches and problems we have been continuously in touch with and trying to sort out, which will continue to do so in future also. And consequence to this trade agreement, I'm going to have a very close look at the notification. Having the agreement is one thing. At the same time, to give practical effect to it, is notifications are required. So fundamentally, it all translates down to the kind of concessions on tariff and non-tariff barriers. So we have to see the fine print of that. And I probably can anticipate that there can be a few glitches, a few doubts here and there. More than one setting would be required for that to clear the doubts. As far as export side is concerned, all countries normally promote exports. I don't think that there would be a problem regarding export from our side is concerned. Probably the major problem on that would be from the UAE end, how the import with respect to their side of the policy is to be regulated their side. Only that we may have to be a little more circumspect to ensure that the export incentive is processed and disbursed at the earliest to the exporters. As far as the import is concerned, like I said, the fine print has to be seen, what are the goods covered in the notifications, and whether there is any doubts in the meaning or the legislative intent of the notification. These are the things which are to be watched for, and me and my officers will be extending all the cooperations in this regard. Thank you so much for having invited me and having given me this opportunity to address you all once again.
Thank you so much, Yusuf sir. And I think the audience would have already noticed we have a very handsome commissioner of customs, one like many of the movies that we see in Malayalam. But the fact that he will work only by the book, the way he mentioned that he has to go into the notifications of the CEPA before he talks about it itself speaks volumes. Thank you, sir, and we look forward to working with you and seeing that exports increase multifold from Kerala. Now, this session that we're getting into is the sharing of views on CEPA by prominent UAE-based industry leaders. They've been there for a very long time, and they would be the best people to tell us what are the changes that are coming in because of CEPA and the advantages that the Kerala diaspora are going to get, as also the advantages and also the opportunities that we have from sitting in Kerala. So these Kerala-based industry leaders include Dr. Azhar Kurban, Dr. Siddiq Ahmed, and Sri Shyam Kapoor. Everybody knows who Dr. Azhar Kurban is. He's the chairman and managing director of Aster DN Healthcare, a healthcare conglomerate in the Middle East and India. He founded in 1987 and is the developer of many healthcare facilities in the Asia Pacific also. He's a gold medalist in MBBS and a postgraduate in general medicine from Government Medical College, Kozhikode in Kerala. His history itself is an epic by itself. He's a diploma holder also in chest diseases from Delhi University, India. He started his career as a medical lecturer at Government Medical College, Kozhikode, but he took a decision of relocating to Dubai in 1987. Just imagine from a single doctor clinic in Dubai in 1987, in over 34 years, Aster DM Healthcare has grown into a global healthcare conglomerate of more than 377 facilities spread across 8 countries. The company is one of the largest integrated healthcare service providers in GCC and India. Along with providing medical care to millions of people across geographies, Aster DM Healthcare now provides direct employment to more than 20,500 people. Mr. Kurban has also been involved in the development of healthcare facilities across India. Over to you, Dr. Kurban.
Sir, you are muted, sir.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Ranjit, for that introduction. Thank you. I don't know whether I deserve many of this, but dignitaries, the Honorable Minister Shri V. Muralidharan, Ambassador of India to UAE, Shri Sanjay Sudhir, Shri Suman Bella, Director, Secretary of, Principal Secretary of Industries, Sri Mohammed Yusuf, Commissioner of Income, Commissioner of Customs, other dignitaries, Dr. Sahadullah, my friend, who gave a very good welcome address. Due to the lack of time, I'm not going into recognizing everybody. I really thank FICCI for organizing this. FICCI has been very active during the expo time. They have been here and they started a lot of interactive sessions between the people in India and GCC. And we really thank FICCI for that. And now with this CEPA coming into effect about 3 months back, CEPA again has been FICCI again has been in the forefront, promoting that and trying to get people from both countries knowing about what is there and how it can be done. And most of this has been already mentioned here by Honorable Ambassador, Honorable Minister, as well as Honorable Ambassador and Mr. Suman Bella. And I just want to focus on what Kerala can do to increase the exports as well as to get more of investments into Kerala. These are the important things when we look from the Kerala perspective. Overall, the relationship between the two countries is going to a level which we never expected 5 years back. The rulers of both countries, the Honorable Prime Minister as well as the rulers of UAE, have become so, apart from the strategic relationship, they have become so close, and that is one part of that, which is extremely important for the relationship in other areas. So that is happening, and from 60 billion going to 100 billion, I don't think it's going to be an issue. It's going to happen in the next 5 years. Now, coming to Kerala, Kerala has an issue when it comes to export of products. We export large amount of very good manpower. That's what we are known for. That's how in UAE we have largest number of all the professionals that you can look for who are coming from Kerala. But when you look at products, like what has been mentioned here, I heard that somewhere that 2,000 crores is the export of products from Kerala every year, which is just $300 million, which is out of the 30 billion which is sent to UAE. It's only out of the 30 billion export from India to UAE, 300 million is just 1%. And we have 40% of Indians here, Keralites here from Kerala who are in UAE. Even their consumption of materials, especially many of the food products, should actually increase this significantly. So have we really utilized that, and have we tried to export? And it's only not only to UAE, beyond UAE, there is huge opportunity to take UAE as a place where things come, and from here it can be re-exported to other GCC countries, as well as to the African countries and many other parts of the world. So what I wanted to just suggest is that Dr. Suman Bella has already mentioned many of the steps. But what I feel can be done to improve this, one, is it possible, I don't know whether it's there already, but if it's not there, is it possible to have somebody exclusively to take care of exports, like an export director or whatever we call, a person in the government? Can there be a person who can exclusively look for exports from Kerala? Maybe it is different matters to be exported, services or products, especially products. Is it possible to have a person like that? Now, the second thing is the logistics. We are having significant benefit in that because we have excellent air connectivity, and Kerala is best connected any part of the world with UAE, with 4 international airports, We have everyday flights coming from Kerala into UAE and from UAE to India. And this really helps. Beyond that, we have, apart from the Cochin port, we have the Vallarpadam terminal, which is actually managed by DP World, which is from UAE. So there is a real connectivity for Kerala to export material into UAE. So that has to be taken care. But beyond that, do we have, like what has been mentioned already, the cold chain, the warehouses, and what is required for materials to be collected and coming to the ports and being exported? I don't think it is there. We don't have a proper logistic system inside Kerala, which is the most important thing, because lot of perishable things, starting from seafood on to the food products, which are perishable, has to be properly packaged, properly stored, and then brought to the airports or to the seaports to be exported. So that is one of the most important things which the government can do, apart from getting an export director. If Kerala government can focus on developing that logistical system of whatever was mentioned here already, I think that is going to be a huge benefit for all the people in Kerala, because Kerala is a place where, like what has been mentioned, agricultural products, the best fertile soil, and any house in Kerala can produce anything which can be actually exported. When you look at the supermarkets here, as well as even to the other areas, you see a large number of products coming from countries like Thailand, the jackfruit or the coconut or other many things which are being processed and sent over here with 10, 20 times of value addition. Isn't it possible for us to do that? Food processing to be taken as a major thing and process these things from Kerala and have the logistic system where it can be, brought to the ports and then sent over here. And finally, I just want to say that for all this to happen, it's important that we see what is happening in other countries. So we should have under the government, the people from Kerala should try to go to countries from where this is happening. Like Thailand, I gave an example. There are many countries in that region which are exporting products to UAE as well as to many countries. So can we go and find out what is that is being done in such countries? And we have the opportunity to do that. Just to give a final example, Kerala has 40 rivers. And these rivers, many of these are perennial. Every day, billions of liters of water is flowing into the sea from the Western Ghats through this river. If we can just have, the government can set up bottling plants in association with the private sector in some of these rivers where this water can be actually bottled and that can be exported to outside of India, to any countries for that matter, that is going to be a huge, huge export income for Kerala, because water is what is going to be deciding. That is going to be the most important component, even more than fuel. Water is going to be the one which will decide how the world is going forward. So we can help the world. We can actually quench the thirst of the world. We can feed the world. And that is what is the food security of the world, which Kerala can take care, because the way in which Kerala is God's own country, the rains that we have, the greenery that we have, the water we have, we should see how this can be exported. So that is my humble suggestion. Thank you very much for inviting me once again, Vicky, and thank you for organizing that. Thank you. Jai Hind.
Thank you, Dr. for sharing your valuable thoughts on the CEPA. And also the basics, some suggestions, very good suggestions from your end, like the thing of export director and cold chain infrastructure facilities, and also setting up a bottling plant center for the all this, of course, Dr. Suman Pilla will look into. We have a Commerce Mission Committee as well as the Logistics Committee, the government of Kerala. Dr. Suman will definitely take action. Thank you, Dr. Sahu, when we all experienced your good work when we were there to Dubai for the World Expo. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Now we have another eminent speaker from the industry side, Dr. Siddiq Ahmad.
As you are aware, Dr. Tikam is the Managing Director for RAM Group, which is a powerhouse in industry contacting project management solutions. And they have a large number of countries' operations in various sectors. Over to Dr. Cindy Calvert for your views on the CEPA.
Thank you, Ranjit. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Assalatu wassalamu ala Rasulillah. I'm audible?
Yes, sir, you are audible.
Yes, sir.
Sri Muralidharan, Honorable Minister of States for External Affairs and Parliamentary Affairs, Government of India. His Excellency Dr. Ahmad Al-Banna, UAE Ambassador to India. His Excellency Sri Sanjay Sudhir, Ambassador to India to UAE. Respected dignitaries, my esteemed colleagues from FICCI and my dear friends, ladies and gentlemen, good morning, namaskar and sabah al-khair. The India-UAE Comprehensive Economic Partnership Agreement is the India first comprehensive free trade agreement with any country in the last decade, and it is also India's first bilateral trade agreement in the MENA region. That is a great news, and it is firstly happened in UAE. The negotiation took an unprecedented 88 days to complete. Alhamdulillah, thanks to God. The free flow of products, services, capital and technology will be enhanced through CEPA. Over the next 5 years, the agreement hopes to increase bilateral trade between India and the UAE to 100 billion USD in products and 15 billion USD in services. An additional 850 million USD in agro products export is expected. As per Asad Mupan says, Dr. Asad says, if we can increase the products for agri products from Kerala across and other areas can be increased more. The agreement will also open new commercial routes for Indian commodities in Europe and Africa, since the UAE serves as a transit zone. That will be the big market for us. This will help business in both countries by increasing market access and lowering the tariff. About 26 billion US$ worth of Indian items will profit from the agreement, which are now subject to a 5% import charge by the UAE government. Furthermore, the UAE has committed to investing in India and infrastructure. That is the great things which is going to be achieved for India also. Zero duty will be imposed from the first day of the agreement. Implementation that is 1st May 2022, accounting for 90% of Indian export to the UAE in value terms. The UAE has given India 111 subsectors as part of the agreement. The agreement will also give us, the SME, a platform to expand internationally by giving them access to new consumer networks and collaboration and opportunity. As our minister says, Honorable Minister V. Muralidharan mentioned, the visit of the Indian Prime Minister to the UAE after 34 years ago is a very historical moment for the Indian living in the UAE and make us very proud and nostalgic. And lastly, this agreement will strengthen the relationship between the UAE and the Kerala government. As Ambassador Sanjay Sudhir has said, the UAE and Kerala already share a very strong, close and strategic relationship. As we all know, this relationship started decades ago and continues to grow stronger every day. I believe CEPA will enhance this relationship by creating new jobs and opportunities, rising living standards as well, and improving the general welfare of their people in both Kerala and the UAE. Sri Pinarayi Vijayan, Honorable Chief Minister of Kerala, is closely working with the UAE to strengthen this relationship. and make it a long-lasting one. I'm sure that for Malayalis, the GCC and especially the UAE will always be their second home. Thank you for inviting me and for this discussion, Fiki. Jai Hind.
Thank you, Sri Ahmed, for the wonderful words of wisdom of CEPA. And he is also the co-chair of the India Business Council. Thank you, sir, for being with us. We have a large number of organizations and business establishments in the Gulf and other areas. Over to Sri Shyam Kapoor.
Sir, you are in mute.
Sir, you are muted actually.
Mr. Shyam Kapoor, can I come online?
Yeah. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes. Yes, we can. Please.
Salam, namaskar, and greetings to the Honorable Minister, the Honorable Ambassadors of India and UAE, and all the eminent dignitaries who are present today. My name is Shyam Kapoor. I'm the President and CEO of Sharaf Group, which operates logistics business, shipping and logistics business in India and the MENA region, including UAE. And in India, we provide logistics services to importers and exporters, dominantly. And what we have observed now with CEPA is that it provides the UAE and India ties to grow further on the back of essentially visionary leadership and the people-to-people relationship. Because it's essentially the people-to-people relationship which provides the basis for trade, commerce, and several other activities. We see that this is extremely beneficial, the CEPA agreement. And the highlights of this is, number one, that India and UAE now can compete effectively with several other countries in terms of exports and imports. So, being closer to each other, India and UAE closer to each other, this reduces the supply chain. Currently, the longer supply chains, and we all know about the associated logistics challenges, this becomes a win-win situation for both the countries. Once the supply chain reduces, the cost of logistics in the supply chain also come down. So this is a great advantage for, for both the countries. And along with this, because it reduces the supply chain, because it reduces the cost, and because of the agreement structure, it will provide huge opportunities for both the countries to increase their market sizes. Once the market size increases on the back of the huge Indian domestic market as well as the UAE and the MENA region market, there is the possibility to create increased exposure of Indian and UAE brands to as many consumers as possible. Now, today we live in a brand building world. So the branding and the increased exposure to brands is the need of the hour. So Indian and UAE products can indeed create their own brands And once you have this, super basket of the brands, obviously the market size will increase further. The UAE offers excellent infrastructure as far as logistics is concerned and hubbing is concerned, which means that the Indian products can find a space for logistics, not only handling logistics, but for display of their products, where the consumers from the MENA region, come in, Central Asia come in, and then they see the products, and then they are in a position to buy the products. Several sectors in India will benefit out of this, particularly which are with an advantage of 5%. For example, if we made a calculation that this 5% duty advantage for Indian products will offer the Indian exporters clearly an advantage in several segments of products which are exported from China and Southeast Asia. And according to our estimate, the Indian exports in those segments should grow by at least 30% because of the 5% advantage. The other challenge, however, lies is the fact that within India, we have certain constraints, certain inbuilt delays because of certain processes in place, which the exporters, whenever they manufacture the product, from the time of manufacturing to packing the container to completing the formalities, getting it shipped to the ports, anywhere there is a delay of 10 to 20 days. Now, if we will calculate the value of those containers and we calculate the financing costs involved on those containers, it may run into anywhere between $120 to $250 a container. But once we sort this out, it gives us further advantage as far as competitiveness is concerned in the global markets, and that's where India will stand to gain if we can reduce these bottlenecks which are currently there. In addition, the health and digital service industries will also find new energy and new motivation to expand their market. So it's not only for the goods, but also for the services. Digitalization of commerce and healthcare and the education services will also expand. And again, the exposure will become the key. UAE offers an excellent international, cosmopolitan, market, which can provide these opportunities to expand such, services then onwards into the MENA region. In short, we believe CEPA will make goods and services more competitive, will provide increased reach and reduce the supply chain. And lastly, UAE will also leverage its own strengths for sure. So here, UAE will also, become competitive in certain products, which are their backbone, for example, petroleum or downstream petroleum or aluminum, etc. Again, if this comes closer to the Indian market, the Indian input cost will also come down. And that, again, will be another fillip for promoting the exports. The input costs, again, as far as logistics is concerned in India, are high, I must say, in comparison to the rest of the world. So the challenge lies for us to see how we can bring this down, the input cost, the output cost, to take advantage of the large hub for goods and people in UAE, and then see how we can truly utilize the advantage which have been created by CEPA. There will be other challenges as well, but we believe that once the current divide by oceans, which separates India and UAE, becomes a bridge, we will surely see a highway for increased prosperity and happiness for people of both the countries. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sri Shyam Kapoor, President and CEO of Startup Group, for your thoughts on the CEPA and also the points relating to opportunities and India advantages and the need to cut down the cost factors. So with this, we are coming to the end of the inaugural part of the session. But back to that, I would request Sri Alex K. Nene, Chairman FICCI Kerala Task Force Export Committee and Managing Partner, Perimeter Group, to propose a vote of thanks to the all dignitaries. And thereafter, we have very important session coming up. Mr. Bipin Memon, Development Commissioner, North Six, Department of Commerce, Government of India, Additional Director for the Trade. Now we'll go detailed analysis on CEPA policies. Over to Alex.
Honorable Union Minister of State for External and Parliamentary Affairs, Government of India, Sri Muralidharan Ji. Excellency Sri Sanjay Sudhi, Ambassador of India to UAE. Respected Dr. Sumit Billah, IAS. Sri Bipin Memon, Sri Mohammed Yusuf, Sri K.M. Maharilal, other dignitaries and speakers, ladies and gentlemen, a very good afternoon to one and all. The signing of CEPA between India and UAE on 18th February 2022 is a significant step towards a new partnership in a year when both countries are celebrating 50 years of diplomatic relations. This indeed is a very proud moment for the industries on both sides by opening new opportunities of engagement. FICCI feels CEPA will enable the two countries engage in multiple sectors backed by large investment flows. In this new age, we look forward to seeing how startups-led innovations will lead in developing a novel ecosystem of engagement. India can greatly contribute through its proven artificial intelligence-driven process, which can see partnerships
अच्छा मैं बात करती हूँ
to all these participants and the staff of FICCI. I'm sure that this Indian UAE Comprehensive Economic Partnership Agreement will definitely be a new relationship for the future. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Alex, for the concluding remarks. Now, without losing time, we are going to the technical session. I would like to invite Sri Divin Menon, Development Commissioner, Organizers, Department of Commerce, Government of India, and Additional Director for the technical session. After we have a detailed Q&A. Over to Sri Divin Menon.
Presentation here.
Firstly, good afternoon to all of you. Respected Honorable MOS, my good friend Mohammad Yusuf, seeing him after a long time. And I do second the point that he looks like an actor, very handsome guy. And please look at some alternate careers also. I'd like to thank Vicky for giving this opportunity for this particular presentation. The reason why some of you may be surprised as to why I'm here in terms of the India-UAE FTA negotiations. The reason is that I was part of the negotiating team for the rules of origin. I was also supporting the chief negotiators on the tariffs. So my presentation here is going to be on the rules of origin and the tariffs per se. And it's going to be a technical session. So I think all of you as exporters, please bear with me because some of your products, I've taken the top products of Kerala. We had an outreach also with the Kochi SEZ, which is I think pretty close from here. So I've just taken the top export products of Kerala and I'm just trying to come to the fact that what are the tariff concessions you have? And more importantly, what are the rules of origin? Because finally you have to meet the rules of origin. You cannot export under the FTA if you don't meet the rules of origin. And therefore, you need to have the proper certification there. And you need to have clear-cut idea about the supply chain of your particular product. Before I start this formal presentation, I'd also like to thank the ambassadors, Sanjay Sabi, with whom I've worked earlier in the PMI Geneva. I think he's been a very outstanding officer, very proactive, especially in the WTO negotiations when I saw. And today, I think he's also given some very important points. So the first point is that most of you would have to start doing your marketing. Ambassador Sudhir talked about two exhibitions, the Gems and Jewelry one and the engineering one happening in June. Please, all of you as exporters, go to the UAE, market there, because I think it's important to find buyers. That's one thing that many, I'm not saying specifically for any particular set of exporters, but generally marketing has been one area where we have been a bit lackadaisical. We have not been going around and exploring markets, not specifically UAE, but generally. And the credibility of Kerala is so high. You are the, I would say, the bread and butter of our relationship with the UAE. That if the exporters from Kerala really go out and market themselves, I think the credibility is so high that you can really get new buyers there. So please do that. Some of you may be small, maybe you have to do it through associations. Maybe could do something. Some of the other associations could also do. But I think that's one of the crux areas which we have really missed out in the negotiations. I'll just pick up on some other points that came during the discussions today. One was about the fact that we need to look at sectors. I think that's very important because there are certain sectors where I think, for example, gems and jewelry, I think is the topmost. Even in the Noida SEZ as well as the other SEZs where we're talking about gems and jewelry, that is one sector that's really going to have the maximum benefit in this FTA. And please, all of you in the gems and jewelry sector, whether you're doing plain jewelry, whether you're doing studded jewelry, please take advantage of this. I think this is one of the most important agreements that you really have there. In terms of investments, I'd just like to make one point that our relationship with UAE has become so close. Politically, we are so close to each other, thanks to the people of Kerala, for example, who have been one of the active players here, that it's the first country that has made an investment in Jammu and Kashmir. That shows the close relationship that we have with this particular country. So please take advantage of that. And definitely, UAE is going to make investments in Kerala, so as also the fact that Kerala businessmen like we have 3 or 4 businessmen here, they also should look at investments in the UAE. And remember one thing, UAE can also be a warehousing center for exporting to Europe, UK, Africa. Please utilize this FTA also for that purposes. You can actually establish a base there and start exports, maybe doing a little bit of value addition in the UAE and then export it to Africa and some other countries, including Europe as well as the US. So that's also one of the opportunities that is very important. And finally, I would come to my specific presentation here. And if there is any issues, please stop me. It's just okay. This is a bilateral trade, so some of you might say that why is the deficit? Please don't take the figure completely in this thing because the deficit is because of 2 reasons. If you look at our overall trade figures, one is the manufacturing that happens in the UAE. Those are the exports that's the actual manufacturing that occurs in the UAE and it's exported to India. Second is the re-export because UAE is a hub. So there's a lot of re-export that happens. And thirdly is the oil. Oil is one of the essential commodities, for example, crude. So if you remove oil and re-exports, we almost have a even sequence in terms of trade between India and the UAE. And that is where the FTA is focused on. FTA is focused on the value addition that takes place in both countries. It's not focused on the re-export or it's not focused on the essential ones which will come anyway without an FTA. You don't need an FTA to import crude oil because that's an essential commodity for us. So I think it's important for us to focus on the value addition. Now, this is the gist of the FTA that we have. Lots of people have talked about the percentages. This is the first agreement where India has reached a 90% offer that they're given to the UAE in tariffs, in goods tariff. And UAE has given us 97.6%, which is amazing. I mean, this is a real good deal. And the fact that this deal happened in 88 days shows the closeness between both economies. We had difficult issues, there were tough negotiations, there were almost 4 or 5 rounds of very difficult negotiations. So we finally managed to reach it and got an agreement in 88 days, which was very pretty remarkable. But just doing agreement is not enough. The like you will take it to there was a reference that we do a lot of exports from Kerala about goods. There is a good logistics setup. And Kerala is probably these manufacturing exports are good specific products of this management lines, which give you a how really I will focus lightly on the in most of the in different products to be aware of. First of all, you need to ensure that it's that you has to in India. Should have a good idea of the entire supply chain, the backward supply chain of your product. For example, if you say that I got this gold bar in Kerala or maybe in another place in Mumbai, and therefore it's Indian gold bar. That's nothing than India does not have gold reserves. Gold comes from the things they have, the deposits that they have. In countries like Switzerland, where they do the refining and make power. So the content of gold in that gold bar obviously those that are not originating either in India or in UAE. So my goal is whatever that just because the report from India or from the UAE, then he is originating there. So you have to have actually in terms of what is the percentage valuation you're carrying out in India together or in UAE, and that's very critical. I'll come to the change in talent classification, which is of course a different concept. I have a slide on that. You need to maintain your minimum importer information requirements for 5 years. As an exporter, you have to maintain the entire information of your for a 5-year period, which can be examined by the UAE authorities. similarly the way around the example those particular documentation. The third party certification, even the office of DFT headed by Mr. Lal can issue the certificate of origin. We are one of the agencies, and therefore I think to also understand what the rules of origin of your product is. I think that's very, very critical. If you just believe that I will get any certificate issued, tomorrow you might find the problem. This is a case. You are getting a 5% certificate. Please be careful about documentation that you maintain. Some might complain that this is a huge compliance issue, but then that is what it is. The FDA is there to ensure that there is coming in both the countries. That third party goods do not come. The Chinese do not come from India into the UAE, or European goods do not come from the UAE into India. So the rules of origin is primarily ensure that there is regulation in both countries. Our actual processing is the country. And please ensure that maintain your adequate documentation as a back end. Have a team that does it, because the 5% meeting concession, for example, is very big, and having a compliance team just to operate that everything is really much very. I'll come to the next slide of change tariff plus. I think we will be aware of this, but just to make it clear, what is a CTH or a CTSH mean? What it primarily means is that whatever is your non-originating input, again remember that it is non-originating input. If you are making a shirt, for example, shirt will have fabrics, it will have buttons, it will have probably embroidered the threads. There are three basically inputs of that. So whatever is your non-originating, it's neither from India nor from UAE. The non-originating input has to undergo a change in tariff classification, either at the 4-digit or the 6-digit, depending on that particular product. So you should be adequately, so when you are exporting something, you should be adequately, you should have the information of the imports basically based on the bill of entries that are there. I'll give you a very small example that we gave to some of the exporters in Noida SEZ. They told us that actually Noida as well as Jaipur SEZ, so just for the jewelry part of it, they said that we pick up the gold from the domestic market. And then we do some job work which is done outside the SEZ. We get it back, and then we make some jewelry out of that and export. So we have no idea where the gold is coming from and who's importing it, what is the value of gold, how do I maintain documentation. So one idea that we internally deliberated and told them was that don't use this business model that we're just picking it up from the domestic market. Import gold by yourself, sell it for subcontracting wherever you want in the domestic unit, get it back, and then do whatever jewelry making that you're doing inside the SEZ and then export it. So that at least you have documentation of what has been imported. The gold bar that has been imported, maybe from UAE, maybe from Switzerland, wherever you import it, you have adequate documentation of that. And that is very, very critical. Just ensure that either your supplier should provide you the documentation or you should have it yourself. That is, I think, preferable. If you are importing it directly, that's more preferable. So you'll have to tinker your business models according to that. Depending on how you want to do it, that's up to you. So this was an idea that we just gave to some of our SEZ units. We also gave it to the Kochi SEZ here, because this is one way that you can really maintain your import documentation. So for example, cashew. Kerala is a major exporter of t-shirt cashew. Half the cashew is imported from African countries. The other half is also grown here. So you need proper documentation for that. We have a rule of CEPA, which means change at the 6-digit level. So you can import a raw cashew and it can be processed into a t-shirt cashew in Kerala and exported to UAE. You'll get the concessions. So that's the way we have structured the rules of origin for different products also. Any question you have, please ask me, because this is a very critical thing. You people will have to maintain this documentation. Without that, please don't get into this issue, because you might later on have a problem with the exports. Now, value addition. There are two methods of calculating value addition. The first method is without the profit. The second method is also, profit is not directly there, but the build down method is you are removing the non-originating material. It is up to you the option that you want to use, whatever you feel comfortable in. If you feel that your company documents are very robust, you know what the overhead costs are, you know what the labor costs are, you know the cost of originating materials, please use the first method. If you, however, feel that I don't have that robust method inside my company, I want to look at, I know what is coming as imports in the bill of entry, I'll probably use that. Then you use the second method. So take your comfort level. Ideally speaking, both the methods should give you the same, but there could be some differences here and there. Now I come to the products of Kerala centers. So just to give you a feel, I've taken the data of Kerala's export to UAE from the DGCI's website. I've taken UAE's global imports from the website. India's import from UAE again from the ITC trade map. UAE's MFN rate is a duty that UAE has. FTA duty is the duty in the trade agreement that we have, and the rules of origin is the rules of origin for that particular product. Now, these are not in the order of the highest one; these are in the order of the products itself. So when I look at the ones I've highlighted in yellow are the ones where you have figures where Kerala is exporting to UAE. UAE has significant global imports, and India is also, exporting to UAE. So there are three parameters that have been taken. Kerala is exporting, India is exporting obviously, but since the databases are different, you might see some cases where Kerala is exporting, but India is probably not exporting because the databases are separate, the timelines are separate. And then you have UAE's global imports, because UAE does a lot of imports of that particular product. So wherever there was a finite value of these three figures, when I come to fish products, you have cuttlefish frozen, whole squids frozen, tissue culture plants, cashew kernel whole. These are huge potential export interests for Kerala. What do you have to do in cuttlefish frozen? If I just take the first case, it is WO, which means it has to be wholly obtained. The cuttlefish has to be fished in your territorial waters or in your exclusive economic zone. If it is outside the exclusive economic zone, that is, which is outside 200 nautical miles, then you have to have an Indian vessel which is registered in India and flying India's flag. Similarly, UAE has to do the same thing. So a cuttlefish frozen, if you are exporting to UAE under the agreement, please ensure that it is fully obtained. There is one flexibility that you have on fully obtained. If you are using a preservative on that cuttlefish, that preservative may be originating in a third country because preservatives are basically chemicals. So it will be in chapter 29. It will be an organic chemical. If that is originating in, say, any particular country, maybe Europe, you have a flexibility of 1% on that in minimums. So up to 1% of the value of the cuttlefish you can use as a non-originating input there, because a fish has to go with preservative. You can't export it without a preservative. So that is the flexibility that you have in a WO. Similarly, squids. Similarly, cashew kernel also. Cashew kernel is CTSH, which I said. CTSH means that you can import raw cashew from Africa, process it here, and export it to UAE. You just maintain the documentation of that imported cashew. That's all. Like I have imported $50 of cashew to export $100 of this cashew kernel whole, and it will be 100 minus 50 divided by 100, so 50%. And you beat a CTSH also, there's no problem. CTSH is met, and you don't actually need a value addition in this criteria. So your cashew exporters can start doing that. Your milk exporters can, there are some other products that tuna is there. Although, as per my figures, there are no exports from Kerala happening to UAE right now. But maybe I'm wrong because this is a DGCIS figure which I've taken. Sometimes the figures won't get captured. I don't think this problem will happen in the case of Kerala, but some of the states which are in the interior, which are landlocked, sometimes the problem happens there. I don't think Kerala the problem should be there. So if it's a zero, probably there's no tuna being exported. I don't know why it's not being exported because Kerala is a major producer of tuna. And a duty of 5% in UAE becomes 0% there. So you get a 0% access into UAE on these products if you can meet the rules of origin. It is WO. WO means again the same thing. You have either taken it from the deregulated waters, your exclusive economic zone, or if you take it from the high seas, then you have to have the ship that is registered in India's flag and it is also flying India's flag. Now I come to the next one, pepper crushed. So there's a lot of pepper crushed. When you have gone to UAE, you must have seen the soups there. They have the spices soup, which is major this thing there. So that is one thing, pepper, that you can also look at. You can, because raw pepper is grown in Kerala, so it's not a problem. You'll easily be able to meet the CTSH plus 40%. CTSH would be applicable only for non-originating raw pepper imported. And you have to have a 40% validation. So since pepper is grown here, it's not a problem. Crushed pepper is one of the options that you can look at. Chili powder is another option. 5% comes down to 0. And other fruits of genus capsicum, crushed or ground, this is also from 5 to 0. And I think it's a major export interest for Kerala. Now I come to the next thing. In chapter 16, you have the canned, the processed sardines, or the processed and prepared shrimps and prawns. Here also the duty is from 5 to 0. CTH plus 40%. So what does CTH mean? CTH means that you can import non-originating sardines, either fillet or frozen or fresh or preserved from a third country, provided you do 40% value addition. So if you are importing sardines fillet of, say, again $50, exporting the sardines which is prepared whole of in pieces but not minced for $100, then the valuation is 100 minus 50 by 100. So that's a 50% valuation that you gain. So what I basically wanted to tell you was that you have to keep proper documentation. Cashew nut, roasted, salted. This is chapter 2008. I was actually, when I was discussing about cashew, what I came to know was that USA, for example, is a very big player in cashew nut roasted. I mean, we are big players in cashew kernel. But as far as roasted cashew goes, it's the developed countries which are the big players. And the entire money is in roasting sort of thing. The actual value addition, it's almost like an Apple thing. I mean, the Apple phone that people talk about, that everything happens in China, but the major value addition is done in the US. They get the maximum money out of it. Exactly the same with cashew. We are in the intermediate stage of de-shelling. We are not so such a strong millet in the roasting. I'm not talking about export. We get roasted cashew in India, which is domestic. But in the export market, it's the big players like, I think it's Kirkland, I think the US company that really sells this cashew. So those are the major players in this. So we still haven't really tapped the cashew market, which is a major market. And if Kerala could expand into this, could export cashew roasted to UAE, of course there'll be SPS standards, you'll have to meet that. Then I think there's a good probability. The duty is 5%. It is coming down to 0 in 5 years. So every year it's a 1% back. So this is the market that I think Kerala exporters should look at, because this is where the real money is made by the developed country players. Then artificial corundum. This is chapter 2880. This is also an export that Kerala does. I don't know from which district it's actually exported, where are the factories here. This is also from 5% down to 0. So I've just highlighted those yellow ones where you have figures on all the three aspects. And some of the products in the UAE have 0 duty. In that case, it doesn't make sense to use the FTA. Anyway, you can export it at 0%. Then you have 3824, which is other mixtures and preparation. So this is a chemical preparation. And here also you have all the three, the parameters. Kerala is exporting around 1 million, 10 lakhs only there. And the UAE global imports is around 200 million, and India's export to UAE is around 10 million. So Kerala is a marginal player here, but I don't know what the reason is. I mean, is there a potential to increase that? Is what we need to look at. Now, 4009, I think rubber is one of the issues where Kerala is a major grower of natural rubber. So there are rubber products there, 4009, 4015, all of them from 5% down to 0. Other gloves, mittens of vulcanized rubber. So, I mean, these are 3 rubber products which I could identify where there is a lot of potential for Kerala exports to the UAE. So it depends on how. I don't think CTSH plus 40% would be a problem, because rubber, natural rubber is grown in Kerala itself. I don't know what the status of synthetic rubber is, but yeah. So synthetic, which one? 4002? That's the normal synthetic rubber, but I don't know whether I mean, are you looking at products beyond that? So you have this 4009, 400931 is there. Kerala is exporting something to UAE. So I don't know whether you can, the first one there, the first yellow, the third yellow, and the fifth yellow. So if you can tell me the HS code, then I think you can see from the HS. This thing also I can quickly tell you at the end of this session if you can specify the HS code which you're looking at and whether there's a duty concern. These are the ones I've taken up the top Kerala exports and where you can really focus on. Dyed woven fabrics of flax. These are exported to Kerala again. Other textiles of jute. Now I come to the main one, 7130. So the last two ones are the main ones, which is your plain jewelry and your studded jewelry. You have a 5% duty. You see the amount, the figures there, such massive figures. 1,678 crores is being exported by Kerala. $11 billion of imports by UAE, global imports, and $1.6 billion of exports by India. So these are the massive figures we're talking about. So gems and jewelry is a no-brainer actually, trust me. You just need to set up your shop there, get a 5% this thing, provided you maintain the proper documentation of where that gold bar is coming from. So please go into that. You might find that some of the figures are repeating themselves. 11 billion, for example, is repeating because I've taken it at the 6-digit level from the ITCHS. So therefore, it's a global import. Global import, you can't have UAE's 8-digit matching with our 8-digit. So therefore, it has to be taken as 6-digit. That's why that number is repeating, 11,344. Now, what is the value addition in plain jewelry is 3.5%. This is what we have taken in the foreign trade policy also. So we have taken the foreign trade policy value addition. It's not 40%, because if it's 40%, you will not be able to do it if you're importing gold and making plain gold jewelry. Similarly, for studded jewelry, it's 6%. Studded jewelry with precious stones and studded jewelry with diamonds, which are all three are different. Diamonds, it's 7%. And for studded jewelry with precious stones, it is 6%. So this is being taken from the foreign trade policy. And we have gone ahead with that. Although in Australia, if you see the Australia agreement, that's also available on the Australian website. There, the valuation is 1.5%. So I have a small film on Australia, which I'll come to later. But right now, I want to focus on the UAE. So in UAE, the valuations are as per the FTP norms: 3.5%, 6%, 7%. Now the next one is other articles of aluminium. I think there's some export happening from Kerala to UAE here. Other parts of engine, which is again an auto component, other parts of pumps. When I had my last outreach in Coimbatore was the major center for pump manufacture, and there's a lot of benefit that they'll get out of the FTA. I also see that Kerala is also manufacturing some parts of pumps here. Oil and petrol filters for internal combustion engines, parts of other filtering and purifying machinery for liquids and gases. So all these things, I think, are good potential for Kerala here. Then we come to relays, electric relays for a voltage less than 60 volts, board panels, consoles for electric controls, parts of other electrical appliances. Everywhere you have a 5% duty and coming down to 0 in the FTA. Other machines, there are some electrical appliances and even parts of aeroplanes and helicopters. So there must be maybe a HAL, an aeronautics limited or some particular company maybe manufacturing it here. So there is an export of 3 crores happening from Kerala to UAE and this. So even that's a potential. Other instruments, so you have medical instruments, 90, 90, 99, this is other medical instruments. There's also PLI scheme for this, productive incentive. So even that's a potential from 5 to 0. Automatic regulating of controlling instruments and apparatus, parts of unaccessible apparatus, all that is also part of 1933, 1932. So get whatever your 8-digit HS code is, I think that's critical here. So I will stop at this. If there is any particular question on UAE, we can just discuss that. I have got my laptop here, so I mean, It's available on the website of Department of Commerce. But in case somebody has any confusion, you can also ask us, and we will try to give you, because I think it's important to know what the fruits of origin is with that particular product, and then that's when you can really start exporting. So, any questions on this before we run a film on India, Australia? You were asking me about some synthetic rubber. Do you have the HS code of that? 4002 is synthetic rubber, but that is the basic synthetic rubber. I think probably he's asking about products. Are you asking about products or there? What? Sorry, you're manufacturing tires. So tires, tire is the export product now. So that will have to look. So I'll just tell you where thing is. So you have the HS code of that tire now. Okay, sorry. I used the wrong. Okay. Just give me 2 minutes. I'll just tell you for the tires. In fact, I think the best thing is to give you a link to this website, Commerce website. I think we can provide them a link or something, and then it's easier for them to check each and every product. That will be much easier. So if I then start looking at each and every product here, it will take a long time. 40 tire difference. So UAE has, I'll just tell you the codes of UAE. They have 40, 11, 10, which is for tires on motor cars. 40, 11, 20, which is tires for bus and lorries. 40, 11, 30, which is tire for aircraft. So what are you looking at? Transport means what? Transport is everything. Buses and lorries or motor cars. So in all of this, it's a 5% duty, which is coming down to 0 in 5 years. So if it is implemented on 1st May, the first cut would be 4% from 5 to 4, then it will go 3, 2, 1, 0. So in 5 years, it will become 0. That is the currently there is a duty of 5% in UAE. That will come down. No, they don't have a differentiation between synthetic and natural rubber tires. They have just one HS code for both. Their differentiation is for buses and lorries, for motor cars, for aircraft. So they don't differentiate between tires and that. I mean, if it's 40, 11. So please get the HS code first, what you're exporting, and then let you clear from this. The sheet is available there on the website. You just have to download that and see it. If you have any queries, then please send me an email. I'll just answer them.
Synthetic rubber. So what will be the value addition to be done? Maybe it is 40%. I think it is both the case. It is I think
both the case
will be satisfied.
Both the cases 40%, depending on if you're importing the synthetic rubber from outside, then you'll have to see what your validation is. I don't think 40% should be a problem for you to meet it, even if you're importing synthetic rubber. And the other?
Yellow bananas.
I knew I'll get into this. I shouldn't have got the laptop. Other wholly obtained rubber. But if it is wholly obtained, you need to then look at whether you're using some preservative from outside. 0.8, 0.8?
0.0.
Trade 0.0. 39. They only have 0800390. There's no use of the FTA because the duty is already at zero there. So only if the duty was 5%, it made sense. No? So it's already at 0% duty. They don't have duty on plantains or bananas. So you have to check that also because otherwise it's pointless. No? But if you are making some value-added products, maybe in chapter 22 or something, not 22, sorry, 21 or 23, then it might make sense for you to look at that. Not otherwise. So you're asking something. You're not supposed to ask. At this.
Sir, thank you very much for making the presentation. I just had one doubt about the kind of papers that exporters need to have. Do they need to maintain value addition papers in terms of build-up method or build-down method? Should I repeat the question, sir?
Yeah, I got that. See, there is a format of minimum information requirements that has to be maintained. That is available on the website. So what you basically need to do is that against each export consignment, you need to maintain what the imported inputs are. The exact value of the imported inputs, the labor cost, the listing cost. So there's a format that has to be maintained. And that format has to be maintained as, I think it's also a good regulatory practice. Because many of us, many people in the business don't maintain that sort of a thing. And it's important that that'll get you into the habit of maintaining it. And one other advantage of this FTA is also that the certificate issuing authority in the UAE is their Ministry of Economy. And since most of you must have gone to the UAE, must have had businesses there, you know how strict the UAE government is on a lot of things. They don't just allow anybody to issue falsified certificates. So whatever is coming to India also is going to be based on a proper valuation. Once we found out that the Ministry of Economy is going to issue that certificate, we were, I think, relaxed to some extent that at least there won't be any misvalue. Here also the agencies that are issuing, for example, SAI, if you are issuing the certificates here, you have to be careful. You have to ensure that you at least know what is the input that has gone into it, the non-originating input, and what is the value addition there. So I think that's very critical.
Can you please put some light on gems and jewelry as a small startup? Can we import bars from there and here?
Yeah, you can. See, there are two ways of importing bars. You can either import it, if you are importing it under the FTA, there is a tariff rate quota that is available for imports. Because I didn't focus so much on imports right now, I was focusing more on exports. So there's a total duty of 12.5% today in gold bars. That reduces to by 1% to 11.5%. So if you want to take that quota, you have to apply that particular mechanism hasn't come in exactly how the TRQ will be applied. So there is a quantity of imports that will be allowed of gold bars from the UAE. And
my question is like the same 1%. Say can be exported back after value adding.
No, you will be exporting jewelry, not the gold bar. So you have to convert it into a plain jewelry or a studded jewelry. And then once you do that and you are meeting the 6.5% or 7.5% valuation, 6% and 7% valuation, or 3.5% if it's plain jewelry, you will be allowed a zero duty access into UAE. So you have to have documents to show that you are maintaining a 3.5%. You'll go to one of these agencies, whoever the agency is issuing a certificate of origin. Suppose you go to DGFT office. You have to apply online. Now you don't have to go physically. There's a DGFT platform, which is their key platform, where you have to apply online. They will examine it and give you the certificate that 3.5% has been done. Based on that certificate, you will get access. You get a zero duty access into UAE.
The gems also the same.
Gems means the raw gems.
Diamonds.
Diamonds, I think the duty itself is zero, if I'm not mistaken, in UAE. Can you export diamonds? Okay, let me just check that. 7102 you're talking about now. If it's just plain diamonds, I think it's already, let me just check that. I'll just get that. Here I'm talking about jewelry, which is 7130, or some other articles which are made of. 7114 is there, 7115 is there. Artificial jewelry is 7170. Let me just see 7102. Uh, 7102 is also there. I mean, if you are basically doing polishing of diamonds, but there the problem is that we haven't given lower valuation there. If you are importing diamonds to polish it and then exporting it back, there is a 5% duty which becomes zero. But then the rule of origin is CTSH plus 40%. Because there we did not have a specific valuation norms there. So I don't know whether you'll be able to meet 40%. So that's not the case. So you have to do jewelry, focus on jewelry, focus on imitation jewelry also, 7170. These are the two categories which you should really look at. Yeah, so shall we just play the Australia one?
I just have one doubts actually. So open, this is concerning imports, which is under the HSN code 701349000. Is it the FTA?
Glass.
Yes, yes. It's a glass. 701349000. This is currently under the FTA, but there is also an anti-dumping duty that is charged. I haven't seen any mention about what is to happen on anti-dumping duty. So will it continue or will there be changes?
That is for the DGTR to decide the trade remedies this thing. But currently there's a global anti-dumping duty on that.
Yes. So that will continue.
That will continue.
And also for 701333700, which is tumblers, it is on the next year to 2A, which is on the covered site. It is given there, but there is no change in the duty. Can this be
India schedule, you're looking at India schedule.
it's important.
So that may be because we have, it may be sensitive for us, we have not given it any tariff concessions.
Okay, so is there any possibility to have it in the future? They review it?
See, there must have been some representation from the industry based on which we have done this. Glass would have come from most probably DPIIT. DPIIT is a ministry which does it. So it's probably come from them. But let me just see. Again, give me this thing.
701
701
3337.
701.
701 33.
1730.
1730. 37.
But when I look at India's schedule, it's showing at zero duty.
This is for import.
I'm talking about imports. I'm looking at India's offer now. So you look at India's offer in Annex 2A, 70, 30, 10. 71310.
731 701.
Other drinking glass other than lead crystal and glass. But the schedule that I have that shows it's at 0 to be. And next to me, you're looking now. So that is becoming 0 with the FDA now. That's what I'm talking about. Provided the UAE exporter a certain promise in CEPA. Agencies. In the agreement, the Ministry of Economy of the government of UAE is the only authorized agency that can issue the certificate for UAE exports to India under the FTA. It will go to zero. See, now, yeah, I don't want to get into this thing right now. I'd request you to download and then see it one.
Sir, ECEPT and CEPA.
CEPA, you have CEPA also, CECA also. It's just that it's more comprehensive, but don't go too much into terminologies. You see what your product is and whether you're getting concession or not.
Product is actually 401691.
Import, export, what
It's
is
an
that?
export product, but I'm using a raw material as my import.
40 is rubber.
Yeah, 0.6 I'm actually producing rubber mats and rubber sheets and rubber other tire flaps. So I have a good value of market of import for a raw material from in UAE itself, like used tires. We can recycle it into like used tires can be recycled and be produced as mats. It's a part of like fillers being used.
But that tire also will not be UAE originating. Is it UAE originating the tire?
It's not originating in like it's not originating in there, but the waste is being pushed out from most of the UAE countries.
That's a bit of a complicated thing because if it is taken as originating that particular product, because normally these tires, UAE will not be making tires. It will be some tires coming from some third country, used in their automobiles, and that's being scrapped. And then the tire is coming here as a waste for scrap.
This is used as scrap and it is in hazardous B level category. So how do I import the hazardous B level category and use it to the like in the
You have to meet the normal import policy conditions. You cannot import it without, if there is a condition of import, then you have to do it. Are you aware of this?
Yeah.
It's a restricted item, so you need to get a restricted license.
Import license you need to get for that from the DGFT office for that. It's a restricted item.
Right now with the CEPA contract, will be
CEPA will not override import restrictions. If there are import restrictions, they will remain.
Okay,
If
but
there are export prohibitions,
if I import and do it for export level purposes, I think right now also we have a rule to import it and use it as an export. We cannot like use it in our market. So for that, will CEPA.
Which notification is this?
Correct.
Is it a customs notification?
Yes, okay, but while we import the tax side, right? Will CEPA have a tax restriction on the?
See, CEPA is basically looking at your duty concessions. You have to follow the normal import policy, this thing that is there in the country. You can't bypass that.
Will it count in hazardous B level also? That's what I was asking. Like, will it count in the tax restriction or something for the hazardous B level category also, only for the product which have been shown?
No, provided you have taken the import license and you got it into the country, then you have to prove how much is the UAE content of that. If it is, see, what you're trying to say is that this is something called accumulation. Like if I take something from UAE as an import, suppose I take a fabric from UAE as an import, I make a shirt and export it back to UAE. Then that fabric would be taken as originating in India because although I'm taking it from UAE, although it's UAE originating, but it's a bilateral accumulation. I'm accumulating the other countries' inputs as my input. Similarly, the other way also, UAE can procure something from me, some fabric from me, make a shirt and send it back to me. That will be taken as originating in UAE, the fabric. So that is called bilateral accumulation. So that means you are taking something from UAE, making something and then exporting it back to UAE. So if that is UAE originating, then it will be taken as originating in India, and then you can easily meet the rules of origin. It will be much easier for you to meet.
Huge dyes are not originated in UAE.
That's
So
the problem.
even for our rubberized direct, we can use this as a better raw material.
Okay, I'll just give you one thing. In the wholly obtained criteria, anything that is manufactured in a country and scrapped there would be taken as wholly obtained in that country, irrespective of the fact that whether that thing came from outside or not. So that is one of the wholly obtained criteria in most of our FTAs, including the UAE. So if it is being brought into UAE and has been scrapped during the manufacturing operations, it will be considered as originating in UAE.
One more doubt. First itself, you are asking us to have a good marketing method for the UAE. How FICC is planning to get a platform, or how FICC is going to help us get into a market through certifications? Or
No, please talk to them. I think they'll be they're in the business of this. So just go see. You have to meet the buyers, whether you meet them virtually or whether you meet them. I think Wiki can only be a platform for that for you. Yeah.
So we'll speak later on.
Yeah.
Arranging a platform for it. That's what I was asking.
Yes.
Please supplement that.
Sure. Okay, shall we just run through that Australia thing and then we can come to this thing? So do you have it there? Or is it here? It's here. So just give me 2 minutes. Let me just let me just run this screen because I think we are short of time. It's getting to be 1:40. But I'll just take all the questions together. Okay. So where is the link to this one? Is it?
Effective history and shared inheritances. India-Australia relationship is also one that is increasingly defined by shared destinies and, of course, our shared love for cricket. Today, both countries are great democracies with converging views on the vast Indo-Pacific region. The 700,000 strong Indian diaspora in Australia is a testament to this robust partnership. Separated by the forces of nature millions of years ago, the two countries are poised to reunite once again through the India-Australia and trade agreement or CEPA, led by Prime Minister Narendra Modi for engaging with the world on the principles of Atmanirbhar and Prime Minister Scott Morrison's India Economic Strategy 2025. In this CEPA is designed to take the bilateral trade relationship from $27.5 billion to $45 billion in the next 5 years. Through this partnership, 100% of Indian goods will get duty-free access to the Australian market. This has the potential to create almost 1 million jobs in India. This includes labor-intensive manufacturing sectors such as textiles, goods, jobs, and jewelry, electrical goods, and machinery. Pharmaceutical industry with more than 4,000 globally available products will benefit from a vast cloud clearing system. These include deploying $12 billion Australian market. On the other hand, Australia will be able to get duty-free access for all to the nation, along with other resources for the Indian manufacturing sector. Strong rules of origin companies under the state power have been designed to build products. 1,000 English students in education in Australia will benefit from post-study loans of up to 4 years, providing students and Australia with industrials and entrepreneurial workforce. Apart from goods and services, in this area, India's cultural export by facilitating the movement of yoga teachers and traditional chefs from India. Young professionals will also be required and quality visa arrangement. This will also promote youth mobility and strengthen people-to-people ties and an opportunity to broaden their professional and cultural horizons. This strategic partnership between Australia and India will help as a bridge between the two countries. Let us welcome this new beginning.
Okay, so I just wanted to give you this because this is the latest agreement. It might take some few months to implement still. I don't know what the deadline is. But again, I would request all of you to go and start, at least start off on marketing this thing. Because again, Australia is a very strategic partner right now because of the Quad and the creation of the Quad and the Indo-Pacific thing. I'll just fast. I won't go into details of this. I just want to just focus on some products of Kerala's interest again in this. So I don't. So here, if I see largely, the duties are all zero in most of these places, excepting a few. This thing I'll just come to us now. So just focus on these ones. So articles of jewelry and gold. Again, here, if you see, Australia has a 5% duty. And it's a CTSH plus 1.5%. The valuation is only 1.5. So just focus on the yellow one, the last one. So articles of jewelry, if it is started with precious and semi-precious stones, this is an opportunity that you have to export to Australia also. And oil or petrol filters for internal combustion engines, parts of filtering, purifying for liquids. Kerala is exporting this currently to Australia. So this is just to give you a icing of it. Relays for voltage, boards, panels, consoles, other electric conductors, other automatic regulating or controlling instruments. So Australia largely has a zero duty. structure, but wherever they have 5% duty, I think you can take this opportunity. So I won't go into details of this, but then please also focus on Australia because that's also a market which we are looking at. Right now, India is also involved in the negotiations with UK and EU. I'm also in the UK negotiations. We are having something next week. That's of course going to be another area where if there's an export interest that many of you have with EU, UK, Canada. These are agreements that we are actively pursuing. So I'll be happy to take any questions, and you can send me an email on this one in case there's a particular issue apart from Vicky, and I'll be happy to get back to you on any specific queries that you have. So I think should we break it now or what do you? Yusuf, otherwise you have customs thing has to. Yeah. We have actually not given concessions on scrap, not aluminium and copper scrap for sure.
In chapter 12, please.
Chapter 2 and 3. 2 and 3 is animal civil. That is different chapter. HS code, you talk about HS code.
And the FTA agreement.
In 72 yes, ma'am. Okay. In the CEPA, you're talking about imported scrap from UAE.
Scrap from UAE to India. So duty waiver is.
Which scrap is this?
Gold and other.
You're talking about gold scrap, that's different. That is 7112. That is a different one scrap altogether. That is at zero duty right now. 7112.
The 12.5% duty applicable for any gold of any category being waived for scrap.
No, but you have to have a CDH plus 40% valuation. How will you get that?
The scrap from
Under what are you getting it? Under which HS code are you getting it? 7112 or 7130? Okay, so you have to be clear on that. 7112, which is scrap for precious metals, that is at zero. That is at zero duty, but you have to have a CDH plus 40% as a valuation. If you don't have that, then it's a issue. Started negotiating, already told you, UK, EU, Canada. So, but this is an ongoing process. I mean, it's nowhere available as such. I think our newspapers are the best source. Our newspapers are free press that we have. That's the best source.
That may be a little late because when we are exporting something to a particular country, when the FTA is negotiating started, we should also put a pressure over here that it should be included over there. When we came to the later stage, after framing the policy, then it is very difficult to add our range or our.
Is there any particular country you're looking at? Because right now we are negotiating with these three countries that I told you. But is there any particular geography that you're looking at?
We have an interest with France also.
France is EU, so the EU is part of France. France will not negotiate separately. They'll negotiate in the EU. But EU right now, I don't know. We have had some high-level meetings with them, but not very clear in terms of how they'll take it forward.
Germany we are taking separately.
Germany is also part of EU, no?
EU, but Germany, India is separately. Then it is done.
EU will negotiate as a single entity. We normally don't have, EU will not be, it's a customs union, so it will negotiate as a single entity. UK is out of it because of Brexit. So because UK negotiation started, therefore EU has also shown some interest now. How much it will go forward, I don't know, but they have shown some interest. But the difference between the UK and the EU is that EU has a legacy. We had early negotiations with them, which got stuck up in 2012. UK being a new country now after Brexit, it's a new sort of an agreement that we are trying with them.
Australia is only for exports, nothing for imports.
No, both ways. Any FTA is both exports and imports. But I'm not focusing on imports so much, I'm focusing more on the export side.
Excuse me, sir.
Yeah.
So furniture export to UAE, so any
Which one, sorry?
furniture export. Dismantle
9405?
Yeah, 9406.
So, furniture export to UAE, is it at 5% or is it at 0%? Are you aware of that duty?
So that's what just.
Furniture is what the wooden furniture.
It's a wooden furniture of wood and like other normal wooden furniture, which is wholly manufactured. I think it's 9403 6000.
I'm just looking at the. Okay, 9403 6000. Okay, if it is 9403, the entire thing is 5%, which is at 0% in the FDA. The immediate term, 0. Yes.
So regarding import from Australia on the ECTA, HS code 330129.
What import from Australia?
Import from Australia.
HS code what?
3301.
I don't have it with me right now, Australia, but I'll just see here. Just check from the website, no? Australia website. By the way, I'll see. I don't think I have it here. Australia, yeah, Australia.
No, it is oil. Natural gas. It is 20% rather than.
Again, tell me the thing.
3301.
Problem is that this is a Word file. Take it some time to open. What's it, double?
3301.
It's in the essential oils thing.
Yeah. 293.
It's hanging because it's a Word file. It's a big file. Say 3301.
Yeah, 293.
937, which is petty grade. No, sorry, sandalwood oil. That is exclusion. That has not been opened. That has been excluded in the offer. So India is not going to give any concessions of that.
But under Asian, the benefit is.
ASEAN might be different. This is Australia. So that is different. So this is Australia. So I think the distinct reasons for the government doesn't show that. Yeah.
So only on the spot. I think I've seen many service like comprehensive agreement. Services to and then receive also. Again, life step on like people also made it because people are thinking it's only books. The agreement is also for
FDA, let me tell you one thing. I mean, within this closed room, FDA is largely about goods. Services is important. So services, any particular issues on services, please tell us. I mean, what is the specific thing? Because services works on a different principle than goods. Goods has a clear immediate tariff part now. So that is the reason I focused on goods. Services, which particular services are you looking at?
people are providing services, comprehensive it covers service also. So if you have time,
I think you can just send me the specific questions and I will just, but please mention your specific services because services that comes under the CPC code, you have to look at the commitments of each country. It comes under limitations on market access, limitations on national treatment. So those commitments, and then it's as per different modes, no mode 1, 2, 3, 4. So if you have to, if is there any specific question, I'll be happy to answer that because services is slightly different from goods. It does not give you a real market access. It gives you against a future retraction by country. Although Australia has some really significant services, Australia, I just wanted to point out one thing. Students who are going to study in Australia, after their diploma, graduation, post-graduation or doctoral degrees, they will be given a particular period of time where they can stay in Australia, 18 months to 36, to around 4 years, including from the, they're given a special emphasis on STEM, which is science, technology, engineering, maths. So any students doing in that, they'll given a time. Now the advantage that exporters might have is that you can utilize the services of those Indian students to market your product. Because you get it as a competitive rate. They will obviously not charge the market rates. Market rates in Australia will be very, very high. So this is an opportunity that it should be used because the students will be staying over there in Australia, utilize their services to and do some marketing at a competitive rate. The other thing is that you saw the video, there was 18, they're giving around 1800 visas per year to traditional chefs, that is the Indian chefs and yoga instructors. So that is another opportunity that the Australia Master Chef became very popular in India because a lot of Indian origin people also want there. So I think Indian cuisine is very popular there in Australia. So they are giving 1800 visas for that every year, both for yoga as well as this. So those are the two important things and services in the Australia agreement. Yeah, please. Any questions?
Sir, we are 100% as per rate agreement.
Okay,
Yeah, you want to import that tire scrap for manufacturing dormants and export. For that, we have to approach the Ministry of Environment for getting the license and everything. They set a meeting with this next week. And in such a case, is any duties applicable or any dumping duties, whether we can import through Cochin Port?
I won't be the right person to answer that, but since you are in EOU, have you checked with the Kochi SEZ? Because you'll be under the Kochi SEZ now for EOUs.
Yes, we are under, we inquired about that. And they informed us that from the ministry, we are getting the permission. For actually, it's a hazardous item, you know.
Okay.
Yeah, that is under process. And they have a fixed video conference next week.
See, the FDA will not exclude this. If there is a procedure like that, you have to go through that system. FDA, you cannot bypass it. FDA is only for the duty, exact duty part of it. Otherwise, you have to comply with the non-direct measures like this, like import licensing. So that will obviously be there.
Only the doubt is that whether any duty is applicable or
no, duty under the FDA, what are you talking about? The normal duty, there is a normal MFN duty that is there.
That's not duty. Yeah, and the anti-dumping duty also applicable. If any
Anti-dumping is applicable. Sai, you would like to add to that because you were in trade remedies. So anti-dumping duty is applicable even if there is an FDA.
Yes, in general, right? For any product, that's what he means. Yes, sir, that's correct.
So he's an expert on trade remedies, that's why I'm asking. He's been handling that.
EOUs, if I can add. EOU, there is a notification which is eligible for the EOUs. They can utilize the notification and import goods.
Yes.
But anti-dumping duty is not covered under the ambit of that particular notification. This is my rough understanding. Okay. For that, you may have to get a separate notification benefits. On the principle that, it is not for domestic clearance. Anti-dumping duty is applicable when it is dumped into the country. That's the principle. So, for the appropriate authority, you have to try to get a waiver from that. But then there are other hurdles also, like previous, our gentleman, our friend has said, that is environmental clearances. Okay, there are certain goods like this used tires which are brought to high misuse. Okay, the duty aspect, including the anti-dumping duty, is one thing, and then secondly, there are other non-tariff barriers which are difficult to overcome. So you have to do your homework very well on this. I myself am, the way it stands now, I myself am very, very skeptical about the whole.
So you heard from the horse's mouth exactly what's to be done. Okay, so that's all I think we'll I think close here. We'd like to thank you because I think we'll have to keep on doing this on a regular basis. But please look at all the opportunities that are there. It's a huge opportunity for all of you, and please take advantage because the earlier agreements that we had, 2000 ASEAN, Japan, Korea, there's always a negative picture that is painted because I think also the fact that our exporters did not take full advantage of those FTAs. So more important thing for us is not the negotiation. More important for us is you people utilizing it. And there'll be nothing better that if Kerala takes the bulk of that incremental exports that happen to UAE. Your relations with UAE is probably the strongest amongst all the states of the country. And we'd be very happy if Kerala is able to really leverage that. So thank you very much from my side.
Thank you, Sri Vinmano, Development Commissioner, Assistant Department of Commerce, Government of India, Asian Development for the wonderful technical session. I know there will be a lot of questions. Do write to JDFT. I'll answer this here. You can write to JDFT. Also, you can mark a copy to FICI also. History is also here. So you can replay whatever questions, whatever things you need to be clarified, please put in writing. We will try to get it clarified. Regarding one more thing, the agriculture, that new agreement on the Australian, definitely, and the second being planned with Australia, with the Indian members, the European embassy in India, also American embassy. Definitely, the DFT also will be participate, will be part of it. That will keep you informed. And one more thing, that somebody asked about the trade connections and the buy-sell activities. Very often we do a lot of buy-sell activities. Next week we are doing buy-sell activities on the with the corporate development on the corporate development on board and wiki on the export and import connectivity and the natural and the industry players in India also. Already it is announced that's happening on 26, 27, 28 next week. That's on the virtual platform. And another important thing that is very useful for the industry community, we are doing it. Buyer-seller for the government of Kerala, that's VIAPA, which has been doing for the last many years, but now reviving it. That is happening on the June 16 and 17, 18. Do get in touch with Vicky as well as the AC will be getting more information to us. So prior to concluding, I'd like to invite Sri Alex Kenainen, Chairman, Vicky Kerala Tax Sport Committee to give a moment to us a token of gratitude to Sri Bipin Menon. Thank you, sir. I want to thank the commission also for sitting all the way until the morning till the end of the session. Thank you, sir. And also the LL sir for joining organizing. And all the participants who have joined for this physically and as well as virtually for this. Thank you and do join for the lecture. Thank you.